Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at the best champions after our little jungle shakeup. A fair amount has changed, but probably not as much as you think. We're going to break down each role and have a look. Timestamps and a list are down in the description to make your life a little bit easier, but I do have a proper spicy build to finish the video. AD carry is actually pretty balanced right now outside of Ezreal having an absolutely insane play rate. Like everybody is playing him with double tier, but I have a few things I think stand out and a lot of things that are good. Jinx is a really reliable champion right now, and consistency for solo queue is great for climbing ranks. It's honestly probably the number one thing you need. Her win rate is pretty solid throughout the game, so that definitely helps, but you're looking for that 1 to 3 item spike in power. Crit champions rely so heavily on items to do damage, but with Jinx, her rockets and her minigun kind of add another level that makes it a lot easier. She can farm easily with runes and rockets as well, so she ends up having more gold on average, even if you don't actually mean to and you suck at CS. It's basically impossible to miss CS as Jinx. She has high range, she's very easy to play. I say this a lot, but that will help you focus on other things like positioning and fights if you don't have to worry about being close to somebody. She is one of the best AD carries to get carried with as well, to be honest. If your team is doing just okay, they get one kill at the start of the fight, and that triggers your reset from your passive, and that lets you basically mop up the rest of the fight for free. Kai'Sa is the other one I really want to mention. Even after the nerfs, she is extremely good. She actually doesn't do that well early to mid game. At one item, she's not going to pop off as much as a lot of other champions. The bit that makes her so good though is she scales better than everybody else. Watch any MSI game or even in your solo queue ones, Kai'Sa can be doing basically nothing throughout the entire game, but as soon as she gets 3 items, she will destroy. I'm not trying to say she's bad early, like she can still fight. She has okay wave clear and a good poke from a W, but her late game is just on another level. I notice it a lot when I play her as well. When I get my Q and my E upgraded together, I feel so much more powerful, and that's when I can do a lot more. It's almost like that ticking time bomb, like a Vayne, for example. Even if you're not doing that great, you get your items and you will be okay. If you're doing well though, you get them faster, and it's ridiculous. As we mentioned before, Ezreal's double tier build is nuts. Ezreal is probably the strongest AD you can play right now. If you can get him, everybody is playing him, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. So honorable mention is Draven. With Conqueror, like he is nuts. He can pop off in lane way harder than anybody else you can play. He is like the lane god. With Draven's passive as well, the thing about that is once he gets ahead, he's really not slowing down, so that lead will keep growing and growing even more than any other champion. If you're not the best Draven, you should really try the way the Koreans do it, by the way. Not because it's Korean, but because I think it's easier to play the lane phase with. So they rush a Bloodthirster and go Infinity Edge afterwards. It is a ton of AD and it makes fighting much better. That wraps up our AD carries for 8.10, but in the mid lane we've got stuff like Leblanc, Talon, Zed, Lux, Zoe, and Vlad that are doing really well. Zoe is finally a lot better again after they gutted her. Well, she was really overpowered, then they gutted her, and now she's kind of like back to good. Her ban rate has almost doubled since 8.10 has started, and that is normally a really good sign something is pretty dumb and unfun to play against. Most people have finally settled on a solid build as well. Ludens, Lichbane, and Morello into Deathcap. The poke and penetration you get just helps you nuke people down a lot easier. This patch, more games have been ending before 25 minutes than normal, by the way. I don't know if you've realized that as well, but that seems to be where Zoe pops off the most. If she can get ahead at that point, it's really difficult to deal with. You don't have any defense. She can 100% one-shot you pretty easily, and I've seen a fair few just hard carry their teams. They can make the game 5v4 for their team from a mile away, and unless you're prepared to go like full balls to the wall and dive in on her, you can't really stop her doing it either. Vlad is my other one, another champion you cannot really stop that easily, and there's no surprise after MSI. Obviously we've seen him a bit more, but he's also sitting at one of the higher ban rates for 8.10. As we said, if he gets ahead, there is not much you can do to stop him. Maybe for a good player they can like outplay and stuff, but for most solo queue players they are just gonna die. Shirelli's Interprota belt means there is honestly no way to stay away from him unless you're like a few screens away to start with. So a lot of the problem for solo queue is people are like, I couldn't get away from him, and that's because they're in the wrong position to start with. It doesn't really matter though. People just don't respect how easily he can gap close with this build, and he also has the damage to 100% one-shot you with it. Vlad has always had that damage, like he's always had high base damage. He just has an easier time of getting into range to use it now. Also remember, these 2 items are very cheap compared to others, so you'll have like 3 items when the enemy has like 2. Lux is very similar to Zoe. She got a lot of buffs recently and she's just a lot better, but she's also very, very safe. Leblanc is still banned in over 50% of games right now. Dying in less than a second isn't really the most fun way to die, so I'm guessing that's why. Talon and Zed are both awesome if you prefer assassins. I think Talon might be a bit better for solo queue right now, but both can roam, both can nuke people down since the Tabby nerfs. Now Malz is my honorable mention, and we saw this again a few times in MSI, but it's with the new Irelias. Malz is a mobile. It's how he's designed, that's why he has his passive the way it is, and it's hard to always get in range to use his ultimate unless you can flash in every single time, which obviously you're not going to be able to do, but that's also why he used to take Ghost. Now he can just keep his teleport next to his flash. He gets a cheaper version of Ghost to charge in with Irelias, and Malz is so dumb. You press R, you lock them down, and it's very easy for your team to follow up. This patch wasn't really about the mid lane though, it was mostly about the jungle, but really the same things are doing well as long as they can contest the crab properly. So like Xin Zhao is numero uno, Graves is still there, so is Mundo and Trundle. Xin is getting more popular, banned more every day, and still has an insane win rate. It is not supposed to work like that. When people pick up a champion that they just think is overpowered and they just try and abuse it, they normally lose a bunch of games and it lowers the win rate. But apparently Xin Zhao is just that strong and straightforward that it goes up. Xin is notoriously the best jungler pre 30 minutes since he got a rework. That's when he has Trinity Force and he runs around bursting the crap out of everybody that he meets. The fun thing is this patch he meets even more people because they're all running around chasing the same crab for the entire game. Phase Rush was also buffed to made better early game where he's now fighting more, as we just said. So in a nutshell, basically Riot's balance team just lined up everything at the same time perfectly for Xin. Mundo jungle is a bit different. Obviously this happened a few patches ago. I don't think he's broken as much anymore, but I feel like Emax is just so strong. I think there's something kind of hilarious and stupid about getting smacked around by a full tank Mundo. Like Emax with Fleet Footwork, by the way, is where it is at for the jungle. When you max your E, okay, it gives you 110 bonus AD minimum at least, and up to a 30% magic resist boost as well. That AD is increased based on your missing health, so use it lower and it could be even more, and that is for 5 seconds. But the kicker is that his next attack will have more range and deal 5% of his maximum health as bonus damage on top of the extra AD he just got as well. That is why he can clear so fast in the jungle. That is why he can duel so well as well, especially with Red Smite nowadays. He can run around, he can actually control the crab as a full tank. Graves is an insane champion at the moment, still one of the best you can play for solo queue right now, and the new jungle didn't really mess with him too badly either. He wants to fight, he wants to farm, and that's perfect. Trundle is like a Zeke's abuser, I guess. The champion is strong anyway, but giving your AD a 50% bonus damage increase is absolutely nuts. It's not quite like a straight 50% boost, but their auto attacks will burn, dealing 50% bonus magic damage over 2 seconds, which is still insane. Now Ivern is going to make a comeback this patch, I think for sure. He's really good. If you want to learn him, I'd recommend Mateos's videos, by the way, which I'll try and link down below. Basically, Ivern has insane crab control and he can abuse the new jungle system probably more than anybody else right now. He was already quite strong before this patch, a different playstyle really, but one that's definitely worth learning. He can have a lot of control early game. Moving into support, they are definitely starting to dictate bot lane a lot more. Like having a good matchup or a strong laner is a blessing for an AD carry. Rakan is probably the best for that. Soraka as well, really good. Morgana, and even a Fiddle 6, which I'll explain in a bit. So Emax Soraka is something becoming more popular, and it's probably the dumbest thing to play against ever. It was in MSI, it was even banned a lot in MSI. It does almost as much damage as Brand's W when it's maxed, by the way. It's instant cast, it hits multiple people, and it silences them at the same time. You can run up, you can use it, you can land your Q afterwards, and just run away for a seriously good and effective trade every single time. When you add in the healing on top of that, it's very hard to play against unless you're coordinated, like your duo or something, and you fight her when it's on cooldown, but most people are not going to bother. Her team fight isn't bad either. Obviously, we're talking about Soraka. The science plays a big part, like countering a Zed or an assassin jumping in, then you've got the healing, and you've got her ultimate. I honestly feel like Soraka might not be the most fun thing. You might get called an e-girl a lot if you play her, but she'll still help you climb. Maybe a bit more of a fun thing to play is Rakan. Like, he's a monster support at the moment. A good one can kind of solo carry a game almost, which is weird for a support. That engage is something that you just cannot really avoid unless you're an absolute monster mechanically. But he's not just there for that either. He builds defensively. Zeke's, Sensor, Redemption, all of those massively help an AD do their job even better. That's partly why he's a teamfight god. Like, his kit plus his items, the impact he can have is really next level. Like, I don't think many people can match that. People always flame me for saying it, but like, his win rate increases the longer the game goes on. It starts off pretty low and just ends up insanely high late game. Something that's very similar is Morgana actually. Like, she's safe, she's high damage, she's insane setup, and cockblocks basically any sick play that you want to pull off because of her black shield. I said Fiddle 6 before though, right? So he's a pocket big counter to Morgana because he can blow through the shield with his E and then insta fear. He isn't just good against Morgana, he has very good poke and stuff, but that's like one of the matchups he really wants. Fiddle 6 is kind of like a Brand, I guess. Like, good damage and poke in lane, has a fear instead of a stun that Brand does, but like a big damage ultimate as well. Speaking of Brand, he is going to be my honorable mention for this patch, especially at lower ranks. He's doing a lot better, and if you have a really bad AD, he's just a good support to play. With the game speeding up a little bit this patch, there are a lot more like fights for crabs and stuff like that. Brand packs more damage than the AD carry that early into the game. If you face an auto-filled AD or somebody who just isn't that comfortable as well. Like, it's really easy to abuse them, and they're not going to know what to do at all. You poke them out of lane over and over, maybe you kill them as well. They'll end up with no CS at all. Top lane actually didn't change that much going into 8.10. Like, we have Singed, Irelia still, Camille, Mundo. That's like the go-tos, I guess. But I've got a really spicy honorable mention today. I mentioned Singed a fair amount, but he's got this really cheesy build at the moment that makes playing against him 10 times harder for solo queue. So his banner of command into Irelia is the most irritating thing in the world, as you guys can probably imagine. Banner gives him better pushing power. It's seriously underrated for cheesing elo. Like, half the time the enemy just doesn't really know what to do against it. Irelia's with your ultimate though, Ghost if you take it. I know most take their flash instead, but also your grounding means they just cannot get away when you run at people, especially with the slow from Rylai's making it even worse. It's just a really anti-fun 3-item combo for now, but it's so effective. Recently, we've all seen what a good Irelia looks like, even solo killing in pro play and MSI, which is kind of unheard of really, but I know that was mid lane, same for top really at the same time. We're getting to that point now where good Irelias have had enough time with her to learn her damage, learn ways to get into range to do it as well, but part of the reason I really like this pick for solo queue is because she gets better over the course of the game. So the longer it goes, the higher chance you have to win it, at least stat-wise. The point is really you don't have to worry about ending the game quickly like you do with a Singed. You've got a nutty team fight, it's really good, and you can really carry the game yourself. Your ultimate, like the disarmament stuff, is amazing. Camille is very similar, so we'll talk about her again. Like another carry pick, sick roaming, can outplay a lot of people, and your damage is ridiculous if you plan out the true damage part of it, like the burst part of it properly. Mundo is not just for the jungle. His buffs were insane. He's probably the easiest elo you're ever going to get at the moment. Like, you barely have to work for it. You just run around and absorb damage. So I did say I have a spicy build to finish the video, and it's for Garen. I know it's Garen, but still, Trinity Force is insane on him. You get this item first, then you get Asterix, you forget your Cleaver tank build, you get Sheen, and you pop everybody instead. It does sound dumb, and I know that, but the damage is dumber, trust me, and you can really carry with this. You just grab a Trinity, then Asterix, then normal stuff like a Dead Man's Visage and a Randuin's afterwards. Try it, let me know how it goes, but it's actually a really fun carry build. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for checking out the 8.10 changes with me, but for now, I will leave you with the robots.